I'm unmuting, so.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry we were a little late going back. We've had a little hiccup here, and I need a motion from the floor to have me step in as the chair pro tem. Does anyone make that motion?
I can make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Rosalind Heimel made the motion, and it was seconded by Bambi Palazzola. So do we need to do a roll call?
Yes, Ebony, can you roll call? No opposition, you don't have to do roll. I mean, no opposition.
Okay, if there's no opposition for the motion on the floor, it can pass. Are there any objections? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. We're going to continue where we left off. I believe Meredith was answering questions from the public and the council and chat. So Brenton, can you take over?
So Rakisha's gonna be your staff
Oh,
person for
Rakisha
the
is?
second half.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Rakisha?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. We have Dr. McKee. She has her hand raised.
Okay, Dr. McKee.
Thank you for being recognized. I had a quick question for Ms. Jordan. Who is responsible in your department for Section 504? Does that fall under diverse learners now, or is that under another department? Because I know there's been some shift in the organizational chart. So that would be question number one. And so can you answer
Yes.
that? And then I have a follow-up question.
Yes, Dr. McKee, policy relative to 504, that falls on our team now. Yes.
Okay, great. And so is there some type of oversight that will be happening from diverse learners to ensure that our students, when they are identified for services, that schools are just not throwing them or shifting them into 504, but in fact, actually doing thorough MDEs and working to place them appropriately or to assess whether or not they actually need an IEP. And I ask that question because there are times when school districts will label a child as having Section 504 services to curtail or avoid the process of doing a full MDE to give them access to actually an IEP or services in that area. So my question is, who's like taking the lead on Section 504 in diverse learners right now? Is that someone that can also speak to those concerns that have been brought by parents as well? Just to ensure that students are actually being afforded a full evaluation for IEP services. It just seems like sometimes it's a barrier to the actual services that a child may need. Thank you.
Sure. So we do have current guidance on, those decisions, those students' concerns always originate with that school building level committee. We do know, Dr. McKee, there hasn't been a whole lot of guidance or support in recent years from the department released on 504. I think to your point, some of the previous vacancies on the team. But our policy lead, Ashley Augustine, can certainly, as well as myself, can field any questions, any support that parents have. They can reach out to us. Special education at la.gov for sure. Now, oversight in terms of complaint management for 504, that always goes through it goes through currently OCR, so the Office of Civil Rights, but it's certainly if parents reach out to us with concerns, we can connect them, direct them in the right, answer their questions and get them to, if they're looking for a complaint process, if that is a step needed, we can certainly help them get to the right place to do that. But I do think now that our team is staffed, now that we are getting to that place, I agree with you. We need additional guidance on the provisions of 504. We also know there was public comment released by OSIP a while. They're planning to do a lot of significant updates to the 504 Act. So certainly when those things come out, we will absolutely have to update our guidance, communicate that, relate that. We actually have a team member going soon. We're partnering with some school systems to attend a 504 symposium coming up in Lafayette at an Administrators Association conference where we're going to sit down with these practitioners and leaders in the field and agree and come up with, Dr. McKee, our 504 forms haven't been updated for years. So to really look at those and see what needs to happen, what updates are needed, what is the field experiencing, and how we can make those services for students better. So I think a short answer is I certainly agree with your concerns. And we're going to be taking some steps in the near future to provide some support on this. And certainly our contact email for anything that parents have, we want to hear it. I mean, we want to hear the concerns. That's the only way we can address it, is if we hear the concern.
Keisha,
All right. Yes, we have Miss Kathy Dwyer with her hand raised as well.
Okay, Ms. Kathy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hold on one second. I had to shut off my microwave because it's beeping, letting me know it's ready. Question, at our state advisory committee meeting, we had a parent express a concern about there wasn't a complaint process for abuse and neglect if the abuse or neglect was done by a school staff person. Naturally, it didn't fall under the OCDD umbrella, but we were wanting to find out, what is that process, or if there isn't, where does a parent go? Because right now we're reviewing all the processes for abuse and neglect complaints, with health standards, child protection, so forth. And it was reported that none of those agencies would handle a complaint of a school system personnel doing the abuse or neglect. So is there something at LDE? A process at LDE?
Yeah, we've had this discussion here a couple of times in previous meetings last year as well. For sure, Kathy, DCFS, law enforcement, we know that we have to get these agencies, we have to report it, we have to get those agencies involved. If we at the department would receive complaints about a teacher abusing a child,
Oh my God.
those are the appropriate steps. Our educators are mandatory reporters. They go through training. They have to report these instances. Kathy, we do have we do have a dispute resolution process. I am working. I know that I've heard concerns around the response, that kind of thing. So I'm working with our team around that. We do have a dispute resolution process. We do have a process by which parents can start in the least adversarial way in trying to work with their school systems. And then we recommend, you work up that complaint process to filing a formal complaint with us at the department if necessary. And so we do have that place. that process in place. If you go to our website, you can start dispute resolution and all of those options will come up for parents. But when we talk about abuse and neglect, you have to involve the right agencies to stop that, to address it immediately. I hope that answered, Kathy. If you have anything else, I'm happy to.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, child protection and your local law enforcement agency needs to be notified right away. And I understand about school employees being mandated reporters, but if it's the school employee doing the abuse and neglect, there's got to be some way for administration to seriously address it. And while I understand you have to get the law enforcement agency involved, there's concerns. I am definitely concerned, and other parents are, that at least in Jefferson Parish, I'm not sure about other school systems, Jefferson Parish contracts with Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office for school resource officers. So it seems like then that would be a conflict of interest, even to get the school resource officer involved, because they're technically paid by the school system. So there's got to be a better way that parents know that their concerns are going to be heard and addressed, especially when it comes to neglect and abuse. So I think that's something that maybe the DD Council Education Committee could start looking into. That would be just a suggestion on my part. But we need to make sure there's a clear process that does not present any conflict with any of the agencies that should be handling the investigation.
Thank you, Kathy. Rakisha, any more questions?
We do have a few questions in the chat. The first question is, will the conference, and this is from Ms. Karonda Corley, will the conference registration open back up, or will seats be made available for self-advocates, etc.?
Is that in reference to the early childhood conference this weekend?
Yes, ma'am, I believe so.
So it's currently full. There is a waiting list, but right now it's not. I don't believe registration will be opened back up for this weekend.
Okay, this question is also from Ms. Karonda Corley. When was the information about the conference disseminated to the families of individuals with developmental disabilities, and to the DD Council, etc.?
So our early childhood team has been advertising the early childhood conference for quite some time. I'm not real sure. I can get back with you on when they started those communications around that.
Ms. Carla would also like to know if the purpose of SEEP is to advise Bessie regarding IDEA, then please explain the reasoning for the SEEP meetings taking place post the Bessie meetings and not reconvening on pertinent matters that impact and affect individuals with disabilities.
I mean, SEEP can certainly, our co-chairs can certainly always ask to reconvene. We try our absolute best when taking SPED Bessie bulletins to Bessie to always take that to our SEEP. The only reason that our 741 is not that we don't have another SEEP meeting prior to August Bessie, but we feel very passionate that we want to take that SPED camera legislation and codify that in policy at the start of this school year. What I plan to do is do some soft comms with my SEEP members to let them know, let them take a look at that policy. But we don't have another SEEP meeting prior to August Bessie, and we are finalizing some of our final SEEP interviews to actually codify our new members before September.
Okay, another question is the symposium in Lafayette open to the public? If so, can you please provide the link?
I believe that one, the audience is the Louisiana Administrators Conference. So the audience for that is not, let me look it up. It's not my conference or symposium, but let me check. I think the audience there is for school administrators, though.
All right, and Ms. Jody Rollins stated yes, and someone asked me how well that works. Dispute resolutions need a complete overhaul that is more focused on actual helping parents solve issues. And we do have a few more comments in the chat, but I do see we have 2 hands raised, Ms. Rosalind and Ms. Jill. Would you like to address them, or would you like for me to continue with the chat?
We'll go with the council members. Go ahead, Jill.
Narrative. In the beginning of your report, like when you last decade, you said one of your projects you were working on was charter something, and I didn't write down, I didn't get to write down like literally the second word you said.
Gotcha. Yeah, Jill, that was when I was talking about our foundational charter day, where we brought in charter day. Yeah, we brought in new charter leaders and provided them some development sessions to help them kind of get started. And of course, we focused on instructional practice, inclusive practice for students with disabilities.
Thank you.
Okay, and Rosalind?
Yeah, I wanted to really know because I wanted, with Kathy, what she was saying about what she was talking about. How many schools were you talking about, Kathy? Or in Jefferson? Because for me, I'm in Jefferson, and that, is there any other schools that really needs for their students? And for what I was reading from your report, and is that any other schools besides Jefferson that was
Rosalind,
written?
I think because Kathy lives in Jefferson Parish, she was speaking specifically about the parish she lives in. But if you'd like, we can get somebody with you offline and they can help you understand that.
Well, that's just one of my questions.
Okay.
But now, also, if I'm not reading right, in your report about libraries, like something with an L, like lit, like LITE, or libraries, is that like for the grades, or what is that?
Absolutely. It's a suite of resources, a collection of assessments and activities that educators can use with students who are to support reading with students, and especially students with disabilities who have reading goals in their IEPs.
It's also with the guidance, which like the first 6 guidance. Doing something else with the teachers. What is that one about with it?
Which one are you asking me about again? I'm sorry.
It's with the same line with the library. And at the 36,
Gotcha. So those are guidance documents included in that library.
is that with the teachers?
Yes, those are for educators and teachers, yes.
All right, so how does that go about with, with the students or with the clients, with the teachers in that library? They attend the work for this 36.
So the literacy library that's linked there, Rosalind, it's talking about an online set of resources, not a physical building library. I think that may be some of our confusing terminology there. So it's a set of resources on our website, and that's what's linked there. That literacy library is where you can go and click and find all of these activities and resources that are available for educators.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to find out.
Sorry for that confusion.
Thank you.
Rakisha, are there any more questions in the chat?
Miss Kathy Dwyer has her hand up, and we also have about 11 messages in the chat.
Oh my. Okay, Miss Kathy, you have the floor, but remember you've already spoken once.
Right, thank you so much. Just one other question about the reports you receive on restraint and seclusion. I'm not super familiar with the law, but I know families have come to me and I've seen some of the reports where it shows some parishes report no restraints or seclusion, which to me is very suspicious. Does LDE do any follow-up with the districts about the number of restraint and seclusion incidences reported? And do you also follow up on those that report none, since that doesn't seem possible?
Let me follow up with my team, Kathy, to see if we do any additional outreach. I know that is self-reported, and we wouldn't know if that happened without that information coming from them. But let me see if we have any additional outreach that we do when we have school systems, and we have several that say, no, we haven't used any seclusion or restraint. I'll find out that answer, Kathy.
Thanks. And I would like to suggest, Kim, if the education committee might want to look into this as well.
That would be Dr. McKee.
Okay, thank you.
And she has her hand raised, Dr. McKee.
Hi, thank you. This will be the last time I speak, Madam Chair, right now. Thank you for recognizing. I just want to say kudos to the public for giving a lot of assignments to the Education and Employment Committee. And I'm actually taking notes on that. And I'm certain that one of our education employment staff member, they're probably jotting down as fast as well. So I am taking those notes, and the intention is to pull it together and get it out to the committee and see if we can have some discussion to address the issues that were noted during the meeting. And thank you again for being recognized.
Okay, Rakisha, is that just leaves the chat box?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go.
All right, Melinda Elliott stated, how does dispute resolution help with abuse by school personnel? Maybe I don't understand.
So the purpose of our dispute resolution processes, and those are required by federal law, is that we have a process in place to receive complaints. I am not saying that is going to solve an abuse issue.
All right, and Jody Rollins responded to that by saying they do not, but in daycares, the LDOE is all over it. Karonda Corley had a comment. This topic should be sent to the DEI ad hoc committee to be addressed in addition to the school to prison pipeline, etc. She also had a question. Are the current SEEP chair and co-chairs of SEEP members?
One of our co-chairs is a Bessie member. The other co-chair whose term just ended, we'll have to elect another one. The other co-chair is a member.
Okay. The next question from Ms. Carly. Let's see, it says, are those same charter trainings being offered to private school leaders and traditional public school leaders?
We did similar trainings at Teacher Leader Summit. That particular foundational charter day was for our public charters.
And Ms. Kathy Dwyer made a statement to Rosalind. Sorry, Rosalind, I don't know how many schools are in the Jefferson Parish. Karonda Corley stated Jefferson Parish has 81 schools and more than 50,000 students. Kathy Dwyer stated, thank you, Karonda. Karonda Corley stated, no problem at all, Kathy, and I anticipate working with you regarding dental services for children with disabilities. Jody Rollins stated, if someone reports 0, isn't that a trigger to the LDOE to go and ask for them what's up? To go ask them what's up. Okay, I'm sorry about that, Miss Jody.
That's what I'm going to find out. Does anyone on our team collecting that data go back and ask them, hey, why did you report a 0?
And that was all the questions.
All right, thank you, Rakisha. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful chats and questions. This report requires no action and will be placed on file.
All right, the next item of business is the Planning Council Renewal Report, and we are going to the Office of Aging and Adult Services. And Ms. Sherilyn Sullivan is here to give her report.
Y'all can see me.
Ms. Banks, you also have a hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Ms. Karonda Corley has her hand raised.
Ms. Corley, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and Council. First and foremost, I would like to clear up something that is being misconstrued on whether or not LDOE can actually address children with disabilities being abused. Being a parent and an advocate of a child with disability that has been abused in the school system, legally, they can address it. It has, everybody needs to know that when it comes to dispute resolution, the parents have the process of actually filing that in their due process complaint as far as in pursuing litigation. And then the ALJ will actually tell them that that is not the appropriate court. And then they will be recommended to go to further legal process. Now that can be a financial burden on a lot of our parents of children with disabilities, which allows this to go unserved and unaddressed. That's where the problem comes about. Additionally, we do have a lot of children with disabilities that are being propelled in the school to prison pipeline. I know that our former deputy director, Mr. Sean Fleming, along with many other council members, actually were on a documentary regarding individuals with disability being disproportionately propelled into the school to prison pipeline. And that has yet to be addressed. I know as an advocate, I am constantly in juvenile detention. And we did have bills recently that went before a legislative session that was going to further hurt individuals with disabilities if they would have went into a juvenile setting. One of those bills was authored by Senator Jackson. If Senator Katrina Jackson, if you would like to go back and review it, I did speak on record in regards to how it would impact our individuals with disabilities. I do believe that what we have to look at is, one, the definition of what a mandated reporter is. Two, making sure that all of the systems understand that each and every last one of them is supposed to actually address the issue, not continue to move the issue along into other entities and constantly have the families playing ring around the rosy. the federal government just did a new information in regards to children with disabilities dealing with SROs as well as abuse and the actual protections that parents have so that they're not constantly being retaliated against. That information was disseminated out on the 18th of this month. So I do think that we need to actually address that, because right now East Baton Rouge Parish School System will have a school board meeting today in regards to having more armed officers in the school setting. And I am very much aware of the shooting that took place at Uvalde, Texas. But I think that everyone needs to read that information that the feds just disseminated out and look at these policies that the school systems are about to try to push and put in place that would have a negative impact on our children with disabilities. Children with disabilities are in the school arena from the age of 3 to 21. 3 to 21. And if that child with a disability receives a charge at the age of 18, they are then legally charged as an adult, although they may be in, in high school setting. So I do think that that is something that our DD Council needs to look at as a whole and stop thinking that we are going to get assistance or help from some of these agencies. We as the DD Council really need to truly address this issue. Thank you so much, Madam.
Thank you, Ms. Corley. We appreciate your comments. So our next item of business is the Office of Aging and Adult Services with Ms. Sherilyn Sullivan to read her report. You have the floor.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I am Sherilyn Sullivan. We have a new Assistant Secretary, Melinda Richard, but she wasn't able to make y'all's meeting today, so she asked me to sit in for her. I've been to a couple of meetings in the past, so those of you who've been here for a while have probably seen me, heard me in the past, but for the new ones, welcome. So for our report, the main thing I want to point out on our report is our wait list for our CCW is extremely low compared to probably the last time y'all received a report from us. We're down to only 1,600 people waiting for a service that don't have any service. Now we have 6,000 still on the registry for those services that are receiving some other form of home and community-based service. But for those of you who've been around a while, a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we had 30,000 people on our wait list. So this is extremely exciting news for us. And then for traumatic head and spinal cord injuries, those numbers haven't moved a lot lately because we weren't able to open cases during COVID. So we had to stop that, and mainly because of our collections were down. With people not writing tickets or municipalities not writing tickets or not holding court, one or the other. We're working on that, our funding source, but in the meantime, we were granted some additional state general funds through the legislature this year that has allowed us to start opening those cases. So we're working on getting those lists out to our support coordination agencies now. So we'll start seeing those numbers move in the near future. And then for adult protective services, not a lot has changed over the last couple of years, because now we have 2 full years that we're comparing for you guys. And over the past 2 years, it's been approximately 1,600 cases that were accepted. And then in that bottom box, you can see about 26 to 2,700 of those were investigated. So that's where we are. Y'all have any questions?
All right, you have to recognize.
Sherilyn, this is Bambi Palazola. Can you give us an update on the rates for the Office of Aging Services?
Honestly, I'm not probably in the best position to do that, but I can certainly get that information and get it back to you.
Okay, because I think this is very important, because it was a big concern of ours whenever the OCDD waiver rates were increased, that we were concerned about the disparity, that the aging waiver services of having a lower rate, and just the concern would be, is the concern that we see that that's actually causing some problems with accessing service for our aging population?
Right. So Julie has her hand up because she's been on all those calls with Office of Aging. So she actually probably knows the answer for you. So there she is.
Yeah, happy to help out. So through the American Rescue Plan Act, one of the requests was to have the Office of Aging and Adult Services Community Choices Personal Care Attendant Service that's similar to the services in the OCD waivers provided by personal care attendants / direct support workers / direct support professionals, to have their rates brought to the same level as OCDD. So that would be approximately $18.50 per hour. That has been approved through the American Rescue Plan Act. We have even though it's approved in the American Rescue Plan Act, we still have to do waiver amendments. So OAAS has done an Appendix K waiver amendment that has gotten approved. We are nearly finished with doing an emergency rule because we also have to have a rule to make that change. And we're in the process. Once that emergency rule goes through, then we'll have to get it into our billing system. But it will be effective immediately, but it will also include some retroactive payments. I believe Elizabeth said yesterday in a meeting we were in back to October 1.
Of last year?
Yeah.
So that 1850, when it does go into effect, providers or.
Yes, they'll have a retroactive payment and then that'll be in place moving forward until March of 2025, when the American Rescue Plan Act ends, or until we run out of money.
Miss Julie, is that for providers Arcagino of the state?
I don't believe Arcagino does Office of Aging and Adult Services.
Oh, but they do strictly through you.
Right. And so what this does is, what I'm saying now is the services through Office of Aging and Adult Services and the services through Office of Citizens with Developmental Disabilities.
What's the difference?
It will make them the same. So in order to receive services through OCDD, then you have to have a disability that began before the age of 21. If you have a disability that happens after up to 22 years old or later, then that's called adult onset disability.
Okay.
Or if you, after a certain age, I don't even know what that age is anymore. Sherilyn may know that. Then you're considered elderly and you can get services through Office of Aging. So either adult, that's why it's called Office of Aging and Adult Services. So it's adult onset disability or the elderly population. So that's sort of what's different about, but a lot of the services we have are similar. So, and they have home and community-based waiver services in the same way we have home and community-based services. So, but yes, it will be retroactive and then it'll go forward. Now, I have been asked for all of the things in American Rescue Plan Act because they're temporary. You know, we will be making requests from the legislature once that funding is gone to be able to continue some of those things. So that'll just be dependent on if we can get the additional funds that we need to be able to continue them once the American Rescue Plan Act dollars under Section 9817 are done, because there's lots of different American Rescue Plan. So the ones I'm talking about are specific to home and community-based services.
So just to follow up on that. So it's great that it'll be retroactive, but, and I know this is not any fault of Department of Health because they deal with a lot of things to get this through the process, but the providers will be paid this additional, I forgot how much community choice waivers are now, but it's just significantly less. So providers will get this windfall of money, which that's, they need to catch up because they haven't been paid enough for a long time, but I don't think any of them have been paying their workers more because they didn't know when this was coming. They couldn't front it for this period of time. So I think the impact on the clients and the workers won't be that great for this 1 year period. Maybe in some way for the.
Well, let me verify. That part I do need to verify with Elizabeth Sherilyn. I just believe she said there's some retroactivity, but I need.
And I'm not qualifying it that it's a good or a bad thing because, that might help make providers whole and then they could do some creative things and that type of thing. It's just that I know that I imagine that no providers have been paying it. They couldn't do that for a year's time to be paying an enhanced rate while they're waiting for this rate increase.
There is also with the rate increase, there will be some language and it's in the rule, and I don't want to try to bungle their role, but there will be some requirements for money to go to the direct support workers, you know, in their emergency rule tied to their rate increase as well. But I don't know how the retroactivity then impacts that, if it's moving forward or what that then looks like.
Okay. And I have one other question for Sherilyn. In regard, you talked about how the waiting list is reduced, and that's wonderful. That is, it's just tremendous that that has happened. But when you look at the current recipients, I would, and I'm sure we can go back and look at all of the past DD Council reports over several years. I would like to see like some type of, maybe on next quarter report, some type of graph that shows the increase in people being served, as well as like something showing the decrease in our waiting list. I think that would just be something visually that people can see, and also favorable towards all the work that Office of Aging has done in LDH to address this issue.
Yeah, maybe we can definitely get that to you guys. I think we already have the data somewhere, probably not compiled in a report, but I'm sure it'd be easy to slap it into a report for you guys, but we can do that. Now, one thing y'all will have to remember though, is that you may not see a huge increase in how many people we're serving for various reasons. We have a lot of attrition that happens as we're opening cases. And of course, we still have more slots to fill, because another thing that happened in the legislature that I forgot to mention is that we got another 250 slots. So we're trying to get those filled as well this fiscal year, but we have attrition that happens too. And then people unfortunately pass away, they move out of the state, different things happen, but we can definitely get that information to you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Banks, we have two hands raised. Ms. Jill Hayno was raised first.
All right, Ms. Hayno, recognize.
I excuse myself and Rosalind go first, and then I'll go.
Okay, that's fine. Rosalind, you have the floor.
Now, for what I'm understanding, what you were really saying, and how many cases in with the money is there going to be? And is that going to be decreased, or is it going to build straight up for everybody in that kind of report that you just gave?
All right, I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. Are you asking me if with the same money that we are already receiving, if we're going to be able to assist more clients or the same clients? Is that what was that the question?
Like to have it, with both ways. Are y'all going to add more clients?
Yes, we are actively opening cases. It's just that in some cases, you're going to find some attrition that's happening at the same time, and sometimes even at the same rate. But hopefully, to Bambi's point, you'll be able to see where the number of clients we're serving is increasing, even as the wait list is decreasing. That's what we should be able to see on that graph.
Even with the two, what is that you mentioned, like the two, I can't even get the word out.
The new slots, the 250 new slots, yes, those are going to be added to our total number of slots we can have, because that's been a huge barrier in the past. Is we
but what about the two? No, I mean, with the diet plan, if I heard you right, the two, I can't even say it. Is there with something else with that?
I'm thinking maybe you misunderstood me. I said we had 200 new slots, but I said with attrition, some people are passing away during the same time.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I couldn't say it.
It's fine. Did I answer your question though? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that was it.
Good deal.
Okay. All right, thank you, Rosalind. Jill, you have the floor.
I don't believe she's back yet, Ms. Banks, but we do have a comment and a question in the chat. The comment came from Ms. Kathleen Canino. This was in reference to the education portion. She stated that for schools, a report for abuse can be filed to LDOE under disability harassment. Karonda Corley, she asked a question. Can you address if individuals with disabilities can change the waiver they qualify to receive if that waiver does not meet their needs? Please explain the process.
If I'm understanding that question correctly, and Julie, help me out here, I believe the way you would change a waiver if it doesn't meet your needs is you would go back through our process of being reevaluated through our long-term care access program. I think other than that, we do reassessments, I think yearly, and again, don't quote me on that. But you can contact your support coordinator. Your person can help you get that done if it needs to be done. Now, when we assess, I mean, maybe we say, yes, we agree with you. Maybe we don't. I don't know. You know, it's all dependent on what happens in the assessment process. Julie, you have anything to add there?
That there's an annual plan of care for the Office of Aging and Adult Services waivers, similar to the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities waivers. They have an annual plan of care, at which time, you know, they look at whether folks' needs are being met or do they need additional services. And that's all highlighted in the person's plan of care.
All right.
I don't see any further hands or comment.
All right, well, we're gonna move right along to the next item of business. And that is
I'm sorry, Ms. Banks.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Banks. Ms. Jill came back. She would like to speak.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Jill. I didn't see you. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Sorry, just following up any news on when we plan to appoint a member from OAAS.
Miss Melinda Richard was just appointed, but she was unable to attend today. That's why Miss Sullivan is here in her place.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, the next item of business is the report of the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs. The Gov recognizes Sherry Crane for their report.
Good afternoon, everybody. We, as of March, services have been restored to our senior centers. They were able to open. Our Council on Aging have opened. The only problem is that we still have sporadic closures due to exposure. So we've had Livingston closed for a couple of weeks. We've had Caldwell closed for a couple of weeks. So there is still some numbers going up and exposures going on. But for the most part, all the services have been restored. With still some, changes as far as your congregate meals are not happening as much, but they are still doing your grab and go meals and that kind of thing, so that they still are getting those meals. Couldn't really give you any numbers because we are in the process of closing out the year. And so those numbers come a little bit later at the end of the year, not until August that they have to report those. So don't really have a lot of numbers yet to finish out the whole year. Ombudsman, they have finally been able to go back in to those nursing facilities and be that mediator between the facility and the constituent is as needed. They did receive some American Rescue dollars, so we have really drummed up our volunteer program. We did a media campaign for that. We did activity books. And so we've kind of been pushing that issue to get the word out of that need to get volunteers involved in that. The next is Elderly Protective Services. I was able to get some numbers for them, but they're not all the way up to June 30th. So As of last year, July 1st, 2021, this report was done last month. So they currently opened 4,963 cases. Of those cases, 429 cases were classified as high priority and 3,008 were classified as medium. So since COVID, we have seen an uptick in the numbers as far as high and medium cases. And it really depends on what area, and there's, other factors in there. So it kind of broke down the types of reports of abuse that we've received. 297 were due to caregiver neglect, 124 emotional abuse, 48 extortion, financial exploitation, 216 physical abuse, 101 self-neglect, 438, which is the highest, sexual abuse, 11, and then 7 fell into another category. So they also, Elderly Protective Services also received 2 grants funding with the American Rescue Plan. So they have upped their training, not only for the investigators, but also for police officers, those police juries, some attorneys, to get them all in the same room and just kind of bounce ideas off of each other to try and see, what they can do to help in those, especially those self-neglect cases, where, they don't want to report, they don't want anybody in the house until a neighbor calls and makes a report. And then they go out and find out that, it's self-neglect. The next program is our Aging and Disability Resource Center. Not too much has changed there, except the number of calls have increased for those resources. Kind of picking up prescriptions, transportation to doctor visits, stuff like that has increased. But other than that, they're still just moving along with their normal day-to-day process. MIPA, our MIPA program, we just closed out the 2020 grants because we did get a 12-month extension. We just did a 12-month extension for the 2021 grant, which will now end June 30th of 2023. And we just submitted the grant proposal for the new grant that starts 2020, October of this year to go to next year. So we still will have 2 grants running concurrently to help those seniors in the councils enroll in Medicare and for open enrollment and during the session, which usually starts October 15th and ends December 7th. Those days fluctuate depending on what day of the week those days fall on. And other than that, that is about it for the report. Any questions?
Any questions from the council? From the public?
No questions.
Any in the chat?
No, ma'am.
All right, this report requires no action and will be filed and will be placed in file. Next item of business is the report of the Louisiana Rehabilitation Services. The chair recognizes Ms. Melissa Bingham for her report.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My report's on the brightest sheet of paper that you have. So if you were tired, now you're awake now. The first section of the report is on pre-employment transition services, which are our services for students with disabilities. And we're currently serving 3,051 students statewide. And we currently have 14 active third-party cooperative arrangements, which those arrangements are arrangements that we have directly with school districts to provide the pre-employment transition services. In the other districts, these services are typically provided by one of our community rehabilitation programs. The next section is just some numbers on our vocational rehabilitation program, which is the primary program within Louisiana Rehabilitation Services. And that gives you our quarterly numbers. So for the quarter, we served 8,508 in vocational rehabilitation and 2,448 in just pre-employment transition services. The next chart will show you the council has asked for numbers on the number of DD open VR cases per region. So that'll give you your regional numbers of the number of individuals that we're serving throughout the state. Then you will have the numbers for individuals who are closed rehabilitated. So for the quarter, we closed 82 individuals, and that means that they have been working for a minimum of 90 days in competitive integrated employment. The next set of numbers you'll see are for our REDS, which is our Rehabilitation Employment Development Specialist. The council has also asked for these numbers. The REDS is basically in-house job developers. So we primarily use community rehabilitation programs to do job placement, but we do have these job developers on staff. So you'll see per region the number of individuals that they are serving. We currently have a REDS in each region now except for Houma and Lafayette. We just lost our Lafayette REDS. So we'll be trying to replace those. Our advisory council is the Louisiana Rehabilitation Council, and we will be meeting August the 3rd. Yes, and actually it says on here, the location is still to be determined. It will be at the Courtyard by Marriott, which is on Alpha Segan Lane, which is where our in-person meetings have been. If you've ever attended a Louisiana Rehab Council meeting. We will be having a statewide disability inclusion job fair. It will be a virtual job fair that we will be holding in collaboration with Healthy Blue, who has sponsored this event. And it will be on October the 12th, and I'll provide more information as that becomes available. Also wanted to give a couple of other updates for customized employment. We will be begin the next phase of training in the fall. LSU HGC staff are working with the University of South Florida to become certified customized employment trainers. So in the fall, we will be recruiting community rehab programs and learning partners for the next phase of that particular training. Also, and this was addressed by Dr. McKee in her report, but we are working on our rate setting procedures with the Rehabilitation Services Administration, which is our federal partner. We will be submitting at the end of the month for approval our rate setting procedures, and they'll come back. We've sent it to them before, and they've come back with some comments, and so we're sending it to them again. So hopefully it'll get approved with this quarterly report. And that's just the methodology in which we establish rates. We have lots of rates in Louisiana Rehabilitation Services because we have a lot of services that we provide. So we are also considering using a consulting company to conduct a rate study to be able to get our rates back, get our rates where they need to be. And the last update I'll give, I've shared with you all before that LRS received a grant through the Disability Innovation Fund, and it's called Project STEM Up, and it's in conjunction with Southern University of Baton Rouge, Michigan Rehabilitation Services, and Michigan State University. And so we are working to assist individuals and marginalized populations to either obtain or advance in employment in STEM occupations. And that will be done with a lot of different intensive services. But one thing that will be unique is that they will be using, when I say they, Southern University will be hiring career pathway coordinators, and they will be using social cognitive career theory to assist these consumers and helping them to obtain and maintain employment in that particular field. We recently had our first community advisory board meeting for that particular grant. And so services will begin soon. Where with state government, it takes a minute to get contracts approved and things like that. So we're waiting to get the contract approved for Southern University so that they can hire the career pathway coordinators. They will be working in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Monroe, and Lafayette to do the intensive services. But also the intention of the grant is to train our rehabilitation counselors in social cognitive career theory so that it can be used statewide with our consumers. So that concludes my report, but I'm happy to take any questions. I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, do you envision being able to, I mean, obviously LRS serves a larger population than just individuals with developmental disabilities. Do you know if there's going to be any way to look at the extent of involvement of individuals with developmental disabilities in the STEM Up project? I mean, how much is it going to touch this community?
I am not sure, but we can definitely figure out that information, you know, but yeah, I'll definitely bring that up.
And then just as a quick follow-up to that, then I'm not really, my memory is not that great, but for names, but it's right here. What is it? Operation Spark. So are you familiar with Operation Spark in New Orleans and Families Helping Families? Or, I mean, Metro.
Just briefly, not.
So, but they are focusing on primarily people with autism, but other developmental disabilities as well. So it'd be a nice connection if there's resources, and whether it's just, you know, PD kind of stuff for them or maybe other things.
Okay, Ms. Roslyn, you have your hand raised, you have the floor.
Thank you. Now in your report that you're saying, and that is for, you wanted to see, like, wait a minute. Because like for the regions, they only have up to 8, and I was reading that. So what happened to like 9 and 10? Those 2 regions?
That's a good question, Rosalind. So we use the Department of Labor regions, which are different from, I don't know if it's the Department of Health regions. I know it's the ones y'all use. I guess it's the Department of Health regions. So I think 9, what's in region 9?
That's St. Tammany.
So region 9, I believe, is primarily going to be region 1 for us. There might be some region 2 in there a little bit. And then region 10 is Jefferson, correct?
Exactly. That's where I'm at, because for me, when I didn't see that, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, why is there no 9 and no 10? And I'm like,
I don't know why our government don't. We have to have different regions, but for some reason we do. But region 10 is going to be our region 1.
Oh, okay.
And also there is some zeros up to 6 and 8. So that means they all did not get y'all's report from them?
I'm sorry, where are you looking?
The bottom.
At the rehabilitation employment, the rehabilitation employment development specialist report, number of the job training contracts.
Yes, it had a lot of zeros.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Up to like 6, and then you have 46, then you had another 0 on 8.
Right. So yeah, I don't like zeros either. Now the zeros that you see the most of in that column, that's for on-the-job training, which is a service that we can obviously provide, but it's not one that's utilized as much as it should be. But as you can see, the Reds in Region 7 in Shreveport does a great job with on-the-job training, which is why he was just promoted to a supervisor.
Well, hey, yeah, that one's a good one. So could the other ones kind of step up so they won't have zero?
And actually, we use him a lot to train the Reds, but like in Region 6, that's Alexandria. That's a brand new Reds. So she's in training. We just were able to hire a Reds in that particular region. And then Region 8, she's a relatively new Reds as well. And actually in Region 8, what I've also been told is that they have very strong community rehabilitation programs there. And so our Reds isn't utilized as much for job placement as in other regions.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering why, because when I read it, it was like, okay, here goes like, ding, you know, a little light came in my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask this question.
Yeah, no problem.
To me. So is there going to be like any more for Jefferson Parish?
Any more what?
Training, you know, for them to get jobs.
Yeah, I mean, we try to do that in all of our regions throughout the state. I'm not sure what specific kind of training you're referring to, but we provide job readiness training throughout the state.
I mean, I know Jefferson is pretty like what, large? It's a lot.
Right.
You know, it's big. I don't know if it's really big. I don't know if I could use that word or that term, big.
Yeah, Jefferson definitely is large. Our New Orleans region is one of our largest regions, and we have probably, actually right now, probably most of our counselors, they probably have the most number of counselors in New Orleans, but they need more. So we try to reach the population as best as we can.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. And if we are going to really step up some more, you know, to meet up.
Yeah.
with our people.
Right. I'm hoping to step up everywhere. I know I didn't discuss this in my report, but we discussed it earlier. We're having trouble recruiting and retaining employees because of the pay, which we discussed earlier in the meeting. So hopefully when some of those things can be addressed, because I have over 20 vacancies for rehabilitation counselors, and that's what causes us to be not as effective as I would like us to be.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know right there.
All right, do we have any comments from the public?
Yes, Ms. Melinda Elliott stated, well, actually she questioned, do you ever have the LRC meeting virtually?
We did during the pandemic, but our understanding from our legal department is we have to have our meetings completely in person.
And those are all the questions from the chat.
All right. There's no other comments. This report requires no action to be placed on file. The next item of business is the report of the Governor's Office of Disabilities Affairs, and the chair recognizes Bambi pulling over for the report.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Miss Bambi, I'm so sorry. Miss Karanda Corley, just a moment ago, she just wanted to know reasoning. She questions reason. Well, her question is reasoning.
I'm sorry, reasoning for what in particular?
The LRC meeting virtually.
Our department has stated that our meetings have to be in person. That's their interpretation. I'm not sure.
And Miss Melinda Elliott stated, so LRC doesn't need to have accommodations like GOTA and DDC?
That would be a discussion I'd have to have with legal.
Ms. Kathy Dwyer stated the national health emergency is still in effect and it would be an ADA accommodation.
Okay. I will bring that back.
And we also have a hand raised. Ms. Kathy Monroe.
Ms. Kelly Monroe, go ahead.
Kelly Monroe, thank you, sorry.
Hi, guys.
We can hear you.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Ma'am.
Okay, so I'm wondering if the HCR that was passed this year would work in this situation, the one that Representative Amity passed where it, I mean, didn't require people to be able to have the meetings in person, virtually, but it did say that that if you could do it both ways and allow the public and families and individuals to participate, that they could. Is there any way that you can check on that one, Melissa, maybe, and do like both?
Sure. Can you send me that particular bill number or whatever it is?
Yep, I'll send you the bill.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Ms. Karanda, also, the next question is the meetings considering they serve the individuals with disabilities, wouldn't they fall under the same qualifications as any other agency?
I will certainly check into this. We just defaulted back to the requirements prior to the pandemic, but I can certainly get with the legal department about the concerns.
All right.
Ms. Kathy Dwyer stated, I think we should make every effort to make all DD agency meetings as accessible as possible. Ms. Karanda Corley has another question. Does the DDC have results on the AG opinion on this topic?
The AG declined to give an opinion. I was able to speak to, they do that fairly regularly. I was able to speak with one of the attorneys on staff who, when I told her what it was that we were doing and how we were doing it, she said that that was fine, offering the ADA accommodations for our community members who requested that, which is what we're continuing to do, which is why we're in this hybrid model. And public attending via Zoom was fine in the unofficial AG opinion that I got as well.
All right. Do we have any more questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. All right, the next item of business. Go ahead, Ms. Manby.
Hi, everyone. My paper is on the, I don't know what this is, greenish color paper? Mint. I have colored paper. First off, I'm going to talk about our conference that's going to be next week. And if I could have the staff to put the link to our schedule in the chat or on the YouTube streaming so people can register as I'm talking about it. And also look at our schedule. We will be having the annual GOTA conference next week, Monday through Thursday. Basically, it's 9 to 4 every day. I think Wednesday's schedule might be a little bit different than that, but basically between those timeframes, if you haven't seen the schedule of sessions, you should, because it is very diverse, I think it's going to be really great. We have some exciting panels. We have some exciting speakers, and really appreciate this year we did requests for proposals. So most of the sessions are, the presentations are from people who submitted proposals. Our panels are based on our ideas of really looking at intersectionality of disabilities and other groups of people. And so it's going to be really exciting. So please look at that and register. And if you register, even if you can't attend, you can receive the recording to watch it later. And the link, once you receive the link, it will be the same link for every session for throughout the week. So there's no confusion. There's one Zoom link for the entire conference. We have also just a little bit about GACTA. We are working on drafting a document outlining best practices. And I see they have an arrow on here, best practices for the special ed advisory councils. And then also FAQ sheet for regards to cameras in the classroom. We're also working on some things around transportation. And looking at trying to engage the Department of Transportation regarding gaps in transportation services in rural areas. Then I will skip over. In regards to emergency management, there are some links in the report that give access to some information. It's a Google Doc, but basically I update that very regularly. And there are a lot of opportunities for information if you are interested in helping to either for yourself or for your organization in regards to being more proactive with being proactive in regards to disasters and people with disabilities. Also, accessible voting. So Lillian Dejean served on the Voting System Commission and did an incredible job representing people with disabilities. I think that maybe a few times she stalled the process by being bringing up the issues that are very real issues for people with disabilities that many people would have never thought about. The commission was supposed to make recommendations to be 100% hand ballot, and that is not what came out of the commission. And I attribute a lot of that to Lillian's participation on that commission. So just want to recognize her for that. Also, this legislative session in regards to voting, there's House Concurrent Resolution 14, which is creating a task force for voting rights for people with disabilities. And many of us who are here helped to craft that resolution, which will have at least a majority of the people will be people with disabilities by design. The organizations are required to appoint people to that task force that have disabilities. So we're really excited to lead by example that we should have majority of people with disabilities on a legislative task force. And then last on the report, William Romero, who is he's sitting over there kind of by Lillian. He's in the audience. We're glad to have him working in our office this summer. He is a governor's fellow, which is 11 college students that are very high performing college students who are selected, and they are assigned to cabinet level offices in the state and working besides people. And although I am not a cabinet level position, William chose us and we're so glad, and we're going to miss him once he's going to be gone in about a week or two. And he really helped a lot with our legislation towards the end of the session, as well as he's been helping with our developing our conference. And so, and also just a note, William was the 2019 Youth of the Year Gold Award recipient, not to be confused with the 2017 Youth of the Year, who is Lillian Dejean. So thank you. That's my report.
All right, do we have any questions from the council? Comments? Okay, Jill, you have the floor.
Okay, so Bambi, if I register for this, go to conference, I can watch any session at my leisure.
Any session you want, yep, with the same link.
So at my leisure, right?
Yes, ma'am. And you'll also get the that link that you see that has at the end, go to Conf 22 schedule. That will be updated and hyperlinked with recordings once the recordings of the session. So like keep that link will get you back. If you can look a month or 2 months from now, that will have everything compiled on that one link.
The link that's on the paper, that's on a copy of a paper.
Yeah, it's hyperlinked on the website.
Okay.
But it's bit.ly/go to Conf 22 schedule. It's on that picture. So I tried to make the link shorter. So I did the best I could with shortening the link.
Okay, good job, friend.
Thank you. I'm very proud of my Bitly.
Can you
account.
send the link again? Because I lost the link
Yes,
and I'm trying to look for it and I can't find it.
I'll try and send it to you right now, Rosalind.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I couldn't get two of them.
All right, do we have any public comment? I see that we have some comments up in the chat.
Okay, we have one comment from Kelly, I'm sorry, from Karonda Corley. It says, super awesome, Kelly. Let's discuss the way to disseminate this information throughout the DD community, especially the areas that do not have access to Wi-Fi.
Okay. It was 2 comments, correct, or just 1?
Yes, they were kind of talking back and forth. I can go over those comments too if you would like.
No, that's okay. If it was a question, we'll take it. All right. If no more questions, then this.
Miss Jill
I'm
has her
sorry.
hand up
I
again.
just saw it. Go ahead, Jill. You have the floor.
Jill, you're muted.
Can you email this registration link to me, because I thought I could email it to myself, but I am definitely not that computer savvy.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
All right, thank you.
If there's nothing.
And Ms. Banks, we have 2 more comments in the chat. Ms. Kathy Dwyer stated, Kelly, did that resolution pass?
I'm not Kelly, but yes, the
And she
resolution did
said
pass.
yes. And Dr. McKee stated, I will be signing off at 2:40 p.m.
Thank you, Dr. McKee. All right, if there's nothing else, the report requires no action and will be placed upon file. Our next item of business is the report from the Office of Disability Rights of Louisiana, and the chair recognized Mr. Tony Roca for the report.
Thank you. My report is on, I think, the lavender-ish paper, and I will just hit some of the high points. During the most recent quarter, our client assistance program, which provides information and referrals as well as general advocacy to help LRS eligible clients through the vocational rehabilitation process. That also includes eligibility determination, employment services, and transition services offered by LRS. Between February 1st and June 1st of this year, that program opened 13 new cases during that period and closed 13 cases.
Can you talk?
I am sorry, I talk too quiet all the time.
This evening.
I'm sorry. I will try and talk more loudly. Our community living ombudsman program, in that program, trained advocates known as ombudsmen advocate for people with developmental disabilities who live in over 500 state licensed privately run group homes across the state. And between February 1st and June 1st, that program filed 11 complaints with health standards, and those complaints included reports and observations in ICF DDs during this period, 2 allegations of possible physical assault by staff, 4 allegations of severe understaffing, 4 allegations of neglect of resident health, 1 allegation of lack of access to medical care, 1 allegation of lack of access to dental care, 1 allegation of disclosing resident medical information, 2 allegations of improper behavior planning, one allegation of not providing medication as prescribed, one allegation of unsanitary building conditions, and one allegation of abuse by staff. Our supported independent living advocacy program serves individuals with developmental disabilities who are receiving OCDD waiver services and supports in order to live in their homes in the community. This program provides free services to people residing in supported independent living environments in the state of Louisiana Human Services districts 1, 2, and 10, which encompass the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. That program received 11 new clients and currently advocates for 20 to 25 clients consistently each month. Our WIPA program helps Social Security disability beneficiaries understand how earnings from work can affect their benefits, including healthcare and all other public benefit programs. WIPA assists beneficiaries in accessing employment supports, ABLE accounts, and community resources. WIPA also provides technical assistance to other programs in our organization regarding Social Security, Medicaid, and other public benefit program policies. During the third quarter, WIPA received 103 referrals from the Social Security Ticket to Work helpline. It now has 329 beneficiaries enrolled this fiscal year, and 58% of all referrals have completed initial services and are either working or actively pursuing employment. WIPA also assisted 34% of program participants with wage reporting to Social Security and assisted 24% to apply for vocational rehabilitation services with the state via our agency or employment networks. That's a summary from my report. We do have one announcement. We are looking for clients right now. And the criteria that we are looking for are people who are between 3 to 20 years old, so under 21, lives in Louisiana, is on Medicaid, has a developmental disability, does not have a waiver, but is on the waiting list for a waiver, including those with SUN scores of 0, 1, and 2. And if so, and they are not having all of their medical, therapeutic, or AP needs met, our director of advocacy would like them to call our office and mention the word CHISHOLN, CHISHOLN. So we are looking for new clients that meet those criteria. That's a lot. I can send somebody an email that can maybe be sent out to other people, but we are trying to do outreach to some new clients. And that is it.
Bill, I see your hand raised.
Can I talk?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that Nola? I think I just answered my own question. Is this Nova Sea project new?
Let's see, which project is that, Jill?
The NOLA C project?
Let's see.
It says 2020.
Oh, that has been around since 2020. So that project is it's a collaborative process that we're working on. And it's been around since 2020. I don't have a lot of updates or any updates on actual results yet on that. I think we're still working with our partners on that to try and get it in more of a condition that we want it to be in. So I was talking to the person in my organization who works on that project, and we're still trying to sort of get our partners all together and operating towards an objective on that. So nothing to report on actual results from that program, but it has been going on since 2020. I do suspect that a lot of the pandemic shutdowns have sort of interrupted some people's ability to take part in this.
All right, Ms. Roslyn, you have your hand raised. You have the floor.
Yes, for the clients in that, for what, group homes are you really talking about?
Do you mean specific names of group homes?
Well, because I'm from the group home in that. So, and I handle their buzzmen as well.
In terms of names of group homes, I would have to ask the person who runs that department of my organization to know which ones. And if we're allowed to disclose those right now, I'm not entirely, we may be able to, but I would have to check. If you'd like, I can get back with you, or we can exchange emails or numbers, and I can try and find out the details from the person who runs that program. But in terms of more details on which group homes, I don't have that in front of me right now.
Or you could excuse yourself. We have to go.
I thank you.
All right, do we have any public comment in regards to Ms. Roco's report?
We have a hand raised, Ms. Kathy Dwyer.
All right, Ms. Dwyer, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman. I was wondering, when ombudsmen go to visit ICFDD facilities, including group homes, and observe anything that's of concern, what is the process other than just reporting it to DRLA? Is there something DRLA does with that information? Do they investigate further? Do they file any kind of legal action, either for an individual or when there's a large group at a facility that's experiencing problems? How does that work?
It varies on a case-by-case basis. We do have people who go, the ombudsman will report to their superior. It will usually be discussed in a meeting of that department to decide if there are things we can do about that and what to do. If legal action is merited, that then involves our legal department as well coming in on it to see if they're going to commit resources to it, or if the attorneys feel they have something they can do. Actually, we are planning on having a webinar on our intake procedures on this in August. I don't have an exact date right now, but this is actually in part in response to an issue that you raised, Kathy, at I think the OCDD SAC meeting about wanting to know more about the procedures, how we handle complaints. I did talk to our assistant legal director and our community advocacy director on this, and they do intend in the next, in August is the current tentative schedule, to have a webinar on this that everybody can attend to learn more about our intake procedures on this. And unfortunately, I don't have an exact date right now, but that is coming up. So we'll publicize that as much as possible when we set an exact date on it.
Great. I still would like y'all to present at the SAC meeting at some point in the future, if that's possible. But thank you so much. That was helpful.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, please be excused in that, because I will lose y'all process and all.
Okay, thank you, Rosalind, for letting us know. Is there any in the chat?
Yes, we have one comment from Ms. Angela Harmon. What are the requirements for the client? I think you called Chisholm.
Oh, sure. I can read those again. Sorry, it's a bit of a long list. The client is between 3 and 20 years old inclusive, so under 21, lives in Louisiana, is on Medicaid, has a developmental disability, does not have a waiver, but is on the waiting list for a waiver, including those with SUN scores of 0, 1, and 2. And if they're not having their medical, therapeutic, or AT needs met, please have them call us. So under 21, lives in Louisiana, is on Medicaid, has a developmental disability, doesn't have a waiver, but is on the waiting list. Sun score of 0, 1, and 2.
All right. Ms. Did you get what he said, or do we have to put it in like a chat so that you can have all of the information? Ms. Angela?
I'm sorry, I got it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any more questions or comments?
And Miss Kathy Dwyer has her hand raised again.
Okay, Ms. Dwyer. You have the floor. Ms. Dwyer?
Oops, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if there's a lot of background noise, I'm driving in the rain. I'm curious as to why it's limited to age 20. There could be adults with developmental disabilities whose disabilities were diagnosed before 22 that had never been on the waiver and scored low. Is there some reason you're limiting the age group for that group?
I honestly do not know this.
Because that's the Chisholm.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Bambi knows more than I do about this. It's because that's the Chisholm class, actually. So that's why. Thank you.
Is there any way to expand it?
These are the parameters set by our director. The court, and also this is what directly our director of this department asked me to ask for. So, but it is set, but that is the class. Thanks, Bambi.
Okay, if you would just bring to their attention that they might be leaving out a group of adults who truly have a developmental disabilities and had never been on a waiver before, whose needs are not being met.
Okay.
Okay, I recognize you, Bambi.
Just to respond to what Kathy said, I think Kathy, probably the strategy is that this is a particular lawsuit. So they're able to leverage that law of the Chisholm class, that age group falls into that lawsuit. So not that other people, I'm sure, can call the advocacy, Disability Rights Louisiana, and they'll address it in that way, but this is a particular class. And also I was gonna ask before saying that, I get a lot of calls around needs for education, K-12 education for students with disabilities, like legal assistance to ensure that IDEA is being followed. And I don't see anything in your report around that. So can you talk about what Disability Rights is doing to address those education issues?
So we do have an attorney on staff who does that kind of work. So we do take claims like that. I sit in on all of our legal department, not all of our, but at least one legal department meeting per week when they discuss intakes. And a lot of times we just don't have people calling in with intake questions on that. So a lot of people may not understand that we have an attorney there to take that. So we have been, in the last couple of years, ramping up our social media quite a bit. But part of it just may require more outreach on our part, because sometimes we just don't have many calls on that, and people may not know to call us. And at some point our marketing budget is somewhat limited, but we do have an attorney who actually takes that work, and we do work with people who have IEPs that are not being met.
And so I know in regards to what Disability Rights does is that you can't work on every individual case, that you often look at more systemic type issues. And so if people call and y'all are able to have data to show we continue to get a call about these issues, even if you can't work on individual issues, that y'all would use that data to then be able to decide how you would maybe address that in a more systemic type way?
So in terms of data on how many cases we're bringing in, a lot of it does come down to just not getting the calls in the first place. So if somebody isn't calling in, we can't take a case if we don't know about it, nobody contacts us. So in terms of, are you saying data in terms of?
Like the number of calls you're getting about there's an issue and perhaps you can't address that as a singular issue, but you see that you're getting a dozen calls a month from all over the state about a particular issue, then that would be how you make decisions.
That might be something that would lead to a more systemic piece of litigation, depending on the circumstances, depending on whether or not we thought we had a legal basis for it and the resources to do it. But yes, if we had a lot of people calling about the same complaint, we might actually take a broader action than just an individual case. But we do a lot of individual cases too. I mean, we do some large systemic stuff, like our litigation against the Department of Corrections that's been going on for 5 years and taking up a lot of resources. But we also, our attorneys handle lots of individual cases. But a lot of that is subject to how many calls we actually get in from people who are interested in or who have, who have complaints.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have any more comments?
Ms. Kathleen Canino, she has her hand raised.
All right, Ms. Kathleen, you have the floor.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on what Bambi just asked. And so is that Disability Rights Louisiana?
Yes.
Because I have parents and I've called and they said they're only on emergency basis taking people. They don't have enough attorneys. And I have one mom who's been waiting a month to hear back from the attorney. So I was under the impression that there wasn't enough attorneys to go around, basically.
That has been an issue in recent months. We have had some turnover in the legal department, so we've had to restaff some of our attorneys recently. So I'm not sure what the exact issue is. If it's something we handle and there's just not an attorney specializing in that, not an attorney available who has that expertise right now. We have in recent months had some turnover in the legal department, and we're like a lot of people trying to find staff, and it's challenging to find qualified staff to bring in. It's actually surprisingly challenging to find people who have experience in disability law to come in to work with us. So it's that is a challenge. But we are actually taking in, we are doing intakes and taking individual cases, subject to how many attorneys we have to actually do the work.
Okay, so are y'all still on emergency basis currently?
That I don't know. I have not heard anybody say that in the most recent meetings of our legal department that I've been in. So I don't know if we're operating on an emergency basis right now, or if that's even the term that that our legal department is using or has used. But we definitely have had to replace attorneys recently. So I don't know if we're on that. I can get your contact information, or you can I can give you mine, and you can try and you can call me and I can see what's going on with our department and see exactly what the status is.
Okay, I don't know what's easier. I can put my email in the chat.
If somebody can get that to me, because I don't have the meeting up on my screen, because I'm here in person, so I don't have the actual virtual meeting up. But yeah, if somebody can give me the email, that'd be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I made it back.
All right, thank you, Rosalind. All right, if there's no other questions and comments, this report requires no action and will be placed on file. Our next item of business is a report from.
A hand raised and then it went down.
Oh.
Miss Melinda stated in the chat, can we get a report back at the next DDC meeting about the emergency status?
Sure.
All right.
And we also have a hand raised.
Excuse me, can anybody fill me in for what I have missed?
I can message you, Rosalind.
Hannah. All right.
And we also have a hand raised, Ms. Karonda Corley.
All right, Ms. Corley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair and Council. My first question would be, what is DRLA pursuing, considering the case that we just had recently that the ARC actually spoke about publicly on the news, relating an individual with disability who had parents as the caregivers that had great financial means, but they allowed they neglected and abused that person to the extreme, to the point that her body melted into the couch. I know I sent the email in regards to that to the actual council ahead of time, but I never received a response, as well as I've contacted DRLA myself, and I still have yet to receive a response. And I'm just asking what will be considered, because that was negligence and abuse to the extreme. The family did not go to jail immediately. They stayed out of jail for months before they finally were arrested. And now they're back out. They were back out the very next day. So I'm just wondering, what will we do? Because we cannot talk about abuse and not address all types of abuse and negligence as it related to medical care, not feeding this individual, not allowing this person to go to a bathroom, not giving this person a bath, practicing perfect hygiene. That's a problem. And this person died, is deceased. So I would like, that's my first question.
In terms of what we're doing, I honestly do not know if our legal department is planning on taking any action on that at all. I have no idea if they're planning on doing anything with that case or making that issue at all.
My second question, I'm sorry, Vice Chair. My second question, because that's not suffice, but the second question that I do have is, when will enough be enough before DRLA actually represent our communities? I'm aware of the many families in our community. We have over 200,000 kids with disabilities that are enrolled into our school systems, whose parents are having problems with getting access to legal expertise. But also, what about those families that are having problems with getting access to medical expertise? I know DRLA is supposed to cover many things, including those children that are propelled in the school to prison pipeline, those that are expelled, those that are not receiving access to assistive technology, et cetera. And I'm just wondering, exactly when will DRLA be able to give us a more definitive answer in regards to serving our community?
So it's kind of a broad question. Are there specifics, or we do have people working in those areas. We have approximately 50 staff statewide, about 10 attorneys or so usually. Some of the attorneys in our organization do specific tasks. Like we have 2 or 3 right now that are on a certain grant for disaster work, so they don't do general work. But in terms of the stuff we do, we handle things in those areas, but with the staff we have, we can't do everything across the whole state. We have about 50 people total working with the organization, and we do what we can with 50 people. And if people have issues, of course, they can call us. But we do what we can with the resources we have, and people are actually working for the community.
All right, thank you, Ms. Corley, for your comments.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I just really ask and urge that our council will actually consider finding more funding and helping to provide more attorneys to help DRLA to better represent our families, because we should not ever be by the wayside, not receiving services like this woman did that died. Thank you.
All right, our next item of business is the report from the LSUHSE, which that's the Louisiana Human Developmental Center. The chair recognizes Dr. Phil Wilson for his report.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try, since I'm last, I should go quickly, because last and least and all that stuff, right? So just really quick, the Human Development Center really focused this 5-year period, which is coming to the end in the end of this current state fiscal year. Our major overall goals are to enhance collaboration and to increase access to quality services and to promote use of evidence-based practices. All of those things related to individuals with developmental disabilities and families. Okay, so I'm just going to give you one example of each, and hopefully Those of you who are able to read the report and take the information out of it, you can see some other examples that are in there. And I think as has been mentioned earlier, I guess we need, in the future, we will put a statement on our report saying, if you need help understanding any of this information, we'll figure out an individual that you can contact who will help you to digest this information, in advance of the meeting or after the meeting for that matter. So I just want to give one example of how we increase access, how we, in the last quarter that we're reporting on, increased access to quality services. We're doing a lot of work in early childhood and in the child care space right now. We work with really almost the entire Metro New Orleans area child care programs. So these are the private child cares, and trying to get those programs to provide quality services for everyone, including kids with disabilities, which I'm sure as many of you maybe personally have become aware of in your journeys. Private childcare does not have to accept the child into childcare, but the state has created incentives for that to happen. And so we are trying to increase access to those quality services. One of the projects Maria Blanco has been working with NOEAM, which I know that's just a big acronym there, New Orleans Early Education Network, which is sort of a regional training and TA and support policy organization associated with Agenda for Children, which is a broader organization. But we have, Maria has been doing a lot of work with them for quality improvement. And City Seats is a program in New Orleans that was recently, that passed a millage in New Orleans, so which increased funding by quite a bit for kids, families that have kids that are in preschool age. And the great thing is they increase the number of the seats. There's an expectation that there would be representation among those new seats, if you will. I don't know why they call them seats, because we all know that little children don't sit in seats, they run around, right? But last year, there were 2 kids out of, I don't really know the total, I believe it may say here in the report, but if not, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking it was 400 seats. 2 out of 400, that's pretty shabby. That's not very good representation. But to allow the hard work that Maria and her team have done, I think we are now well over 40 seats and climbing. So, I think people are starting to get the message, and they do provide a lot of training and technical assistance and support to child care centers in the greater New Orleans area. So that's just one example of how HDC attempts to increase access to quality services. As far as the use of evidence-based programs, which is, one of our other goals, I'll just give an example of one of our projects, which is, we have to give kudos to the Department of Ed for, we were all scared to death, and I came here and asked you guys before, hey, put some word out for us, but we were scared to death because we had a contract with the Department of Ed for quite a few years on what we call LASARD, which really is one of those things that no longer means what it did when it started, but the acronym stands for Louisiana Autism Spectrum Related Disabilities Program. But actually LASARD now, people know that name, so we didn't change it, but it really is much broader than that, and it addresses the primary goals and objectives that the Department of Ed has for improvement in K-12 programs. Julie Riley is the director of that initiative area for us. And I think last count was 34 yesterday. We were working in 34 different school districts all over the state of Louisiana, providing mentoring and coaching, community of practice, trainings of all sorts. It's really quite a quite a nice program. And the reason we know it's a nice program, people like it. They like it with their pocketbook because they come back and contract with us. And the contracts, are just growing by leaps and bounds. So it says that we are doing something in the area of promoting evidence-based practices. And also, if you look in here, you'll see examples of like multiple trainings and presentations at like the National Down Syndrome Congress Conference and the Teacher Leader Conference. And I think the conference that's coming up this weekend, is that right, Meredith?
Right.
There's really more a younger group, but between Julie's group and Maria's group, they will be represented there as well as doing a lot of training and also learning at that conference. And then the last thing was, I guess, collaboration. And I guess I know I'm not going to say that this is something that's a done deal, but I'm thrilled to death. We have a possibility of a project that would take to scale or take to a larger scale anyhow, replicate something that LRS has been assisting us to try to get going for years now, which is the Paycheck program, which is a youth transition program that leads to employment. And the program that Sue Killam is the director of that program area. It ends when a young person has a job, basically, not like they're ready to go get a job, but they have a job before their time in Paycheck ends, right? So we're hoping to, we'll see, maybe next spring or so, we'll have a larger collaboration that will include not only the Department of Ed and LRS, but we would intend to include other partners like Families Helping Families around the communities and school districts that we will be hopefully working in. Maybe the LGEs would have a role. What we know about transition is that by and large, people think if you're in the K-12 system and you're in the adult or somebody else is in the adult service system, the way transition has been working is K-12 takes you this far, public education, and then there's something that happens, you get to know a few names or see a flyer or two, but basically you're kind of handed off. And while currently LRS counselors do participate in IEPs, like there's not the same sort of active role that we hope we can create. And then bringing families into this process in a much bigger way is going to be the actual really icing on the cake, because I mean, all of us, whether we have a disability or not, our families are really what helped us get from childhood to being, functioning as an adult in the community. So we're really excited about that. I hope that in winter, October meeting might still be too soon, but by January, we should know if this is going or not going. But so those are some of the things that I wanted to share with folks. Yes.
In the high school system, we have a vocational program, and once they leave us, that's it.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a great program, but it would be good to ask the department that does our vocational. That would be a good track too.
Looks like Meredith has a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm really excited about this partnership and what we know. We did a session at Jumpstart back in January, and the outreach and interest in building these inclusive programs that start in high school around true transition that changes the day after high school for students with disabilities. And that's inclusive of all the different possibilities, right? I mean, we talk about enrolling in community college. We have LaPi options that are growing, which is great. And we talk about that career and professional space. And sometimes that is what is success for some students. And so I'm really, really excited about it. It's a need. It's a response that we have heard
especially since our session in January, where we started talking about this and how to create these inclusive programs, transit CTE programs that are inclusive of students with disabilities, even students with the most significant disabilities. And what does the day after high school look like? What connections are we making for them? So I'm excited about it.
And I guess the only other thing I didn't mention about that particular hopefully thing that will be launched in the, in the spring is that we really want to target kids that are on alternate assessments or the kids the young people that are truly have the most significant disabilities are the folks that sometimes get left behind in the transition process. Not that they're not getting anything, but it's not as effective when they become an adult, so. That's all I got.
This is Bambi. I just wanted to say, if anybody wants to learn more about Paycheck, they're one of our sessions at the conference.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sue and a bunch of people that have been through Paycheck, I believe, or aren't they doing a panel? Yeah.
Okay, I see that we do have some comments in the chat.
We have also an attendee with her hand raised, Miss Melinda Elliott.
Oh, okay, Miss Elliott, you have the floor.
I'm so sorry. It was a mistake.
Oh, that's okay. All right, you can get the ones in the chat for me, please.
Okay, Miss Candace did place a comment in the box, but she stated that she's sorry. She sent the message before finishing, so I'm just waiting to see if she would like to have it still read.
Okay.
All right, Christy Curtis just sent a message, agreed with Dr. Phil about young adults with more severe disabilities.
Okay. All right. Do we have any more comments? Any more questions?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
This report requires no action and will be placed on file. If there is no other objection, we will conduct a recess for 10 minutes. Oh, okay. So
I'm sorry, Miss Jill has her hand raised.
Okay, I'm just wondering what it says, but you want to just continue to keep going or? Okay, well, never mind. We're in agreement that, okay. We're in agreement that we're not going to break for a break. We're just gonna continue to go. So at this point, we're gonna open up.
Miss Jill had her hand raised.
Okay, yeah, for comments. I'm sorry, Jill. Go ahead. You got the floor.
2019, I don't think people want a recess review.
I know, that's what we got it. Thank you, Jill.
You got that.
And Miss
Let's
Candace.
continue because it's after 3.
Miss Candace has her hand raised.
All right, Candace, you have the floor. Oh, was that a mistake?
No, ma'am, she's unmuted.
Okay.
She would prefer her voice is not working at this time. She would prefer to type her concern. She's still typing her comment at this time.
All right, well, we're opening the floor to public comment.
I'm still waiting to receive her comment.
Okay, if anyone else has a comment, the floor is open.
No other comments.
Okay. Okay. Well, while we're waiting for Ms. Candace to continue to type her comment, I want to make the announcement that our next council quarterly business meeting is October 19th through the 20th. So that's again, our next quarterly meeting is from the 19th through the 20th.
Miss Amy, is it here and then at the hotel, or is it, it's past, way past, it used to be a Baton Rouge hotel location.
Oh, no, it's gonna be here.
Here?
Yes.
I like it here.
And if
It's
people
gonna be
wish,
here.
I actually don't know for sure yet.
so
Okay,
that's
well,
not until
then-
3 months out.
Yeah.
So
We'll
when it gets
definitely, yeah. we're
the
gonna
end of
send
September,
information
you'll
out.
be notifying members. Okay.
October 19th.
Mhm.
Thursday and Friday.
Wednesday and Thursday.
I could have sworn when I looked at it, it said Thursday and Friday. That's like the week before Halloween.
Yeah, but though, Jill, you have to realize it's always on a Wednesday and a Thursday. We never do our meetings on Thursday and Friday.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna.
Okay, well, if there's no more comments, we were waiting for you, Miss Candace, but if there's no more comments and there's no more concerns, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
If there's no more objections,
No objection.
no more further business, we can adjourn the
Wait,
meeting.
the comment just came through.
Oh, wait.
She was just in time.
Slow down. Slow down.
All right, it says I'm a full-time single mother of a severely delayed autistic 16-year-old son. I work as a teacher so I can have the same schedule as my son. Considering I'm the only one who cares for him, I've had very little help or success in finding staff for respite, both through agencies and through self-direction due to the rate of pay not being sufficient for my son's level of care needs. In April 2022, I made a request to Acadiana OCDD office for assistance to have windows and walls repaired in my home where my son has punched through sheetrock and glass with bare hands during aggressive meltdowns. I've paid for these repairs 3 times prior. So I requested, I'm sorry, I should just put something again. Prior, let's see, where was I? So I requested that his walls be covered with paneling and windows with Lexan to prevent this from happening again. Contractor quotes were 12 to 19,000 for the repair, and all contractors want commitment for the entire job. I was told to wait for the new fiscal year. On July 2 p.m. No, what she said, July 20, I received an email stating it did not meet a priority level of funding and was denied.
Ms. Julie.
Hi, so OCDD falls under me, and that sounds like something that you would want to file a formal complaint about that we would investigate. So I'm sorry, I don't remember our formal complaint email address, so I'm happy if you send it to me. My email is Julie, JULIE.Hagan, HAGAN @LA.gov, and I will make sure that it gets forwarded to our complaint department that will look into your concern. Thank you.
She stated, it is my belief that health and safety are the highest level of priority. So I would like to know what determines the priority levels for funding.
And I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head to be able to respond. I do know that it is laid out in our policy and our procedure. I just don't have that memorized. I can provide that information, but again, sometimes individual circumstances are different. And so we would need to be able to investigate to be able to have all of the information, to be able to look into it. But when we receive a complaint, we assign someone to look into that complaint, so.
If that answers your question, Ms. Candace. We also have Ms. Julie's email, so you can reach out to her so y'all can further discuss this outside of the council meeting. All right. Now, do we have any other questions or comments?
No, that's about it. But that's it. I could say this, I could make a motion to end the meeting.
We don't need a motion. We're just gonna adjourn the meeting. If there's no objection, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
See y'all in